That's the Jag? I expected a Jag. As for you, Pipsqueak, I'm 4 times bigger than you. I ain't afraid of no quake. But you know, it worked. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. We're taking a look at a set of Decepticon cassettes. We have Ravage, and we have Rumble. And I know there's probably going to be a few arguments over Rumble, but we'll talk about that when we get to talking about him. Well, let's go over some of the basics of these two before we get started into a further delve into them. Ravage and Rumble were sold at retail in 1984. They would also be available in 1985. They would be discontinued in 1986. And pretty much never be seen again in the Generation 1 lineup. At least here in the States. They would make a few reappearances in other parts of the world. And their molds would also get reused for other characters. But, well, now that we've covered that, there isn't much history to go beyond that, but we'll break down for each of them here in a second. For starters, we will take a look here at Ravage. When Ravage was released in his original toy form in Japan, he was known as Jaguar. So I guess that's the kind of animal form his robot is trying to emulate. He is by far one of the more popular Decepticon cassettes. Probably due to the fact that being a Jaguar, he does get to do a little bit of hunting. He was also pretty good at espionage and sneaking into places. But he was listed as a saboteur on his file card. He's also one of the few that does not have a sticker forming the label of his microcassette it is painted on. So that's a nice, interesting detail about him. Of course, in modern times, Ravage has been seen in some of the modern media, especially the live-action films. He first appeared in Revenge of the Fallen, despite the fact that he was not shown with Soundwave. Although I think most of us, if you still watched the movies by then, did enjoy seeing him appear in Bumblebee. So I definitely enjoyed seeing the trailer that showed him being let loose from Soundwave. That gave me some excitement for the film, seeing as they were finally going with a G1 aesthetic. Who cares if it made sense or not? At any rate, let's take a look at Ravage's accessories. He has with him a pair of bombs. Now, these are not missiles, these are bombs, apparently. As you can see, they have a fin protruding from one side, and they have a post at the other. They are an opposing pair, so you will have to make sure that you have the proper pair when you buy a loose one. And of course, if that's something that bothers you, you should look over the chrome on them. Chromeware is a big issue. These aren't too terribly bad. But at any rate, let's take a look at Ravage's articulation. He has quite a few for a character like him. You move the head up and down at the base of the neck, It's more for transforming him, but at least you can make him look up and down a little. The tail can be raised up and down as well. All 4 of his legs are independent. They can be adjusted at the shoulder, at the knee, and at the ankle. That goes for all 4 of his legs. So you really get some good articulation out of Ravage. Now to transform Ravage, we start by taking his head and we're going to fold that all the way back until it touches his back. Then you can fold his tail up and it will help hold his head in place. His back legs we kind of bring up towards the back. We don't fold them in yet. So we got to straighten out his front legs. And they get folded down like so. So that the front legs come in here in this gap between his belly and his hips. Then we can fold flat his back feet and then fold them up like so. And there we have it. Ravage is in his cassette mode. Nice looking little shape. Get him back here into his Jaguar mode. I think Larry was thinking I meant a real Jaguar. Larry does like fancy cars. Even though we'll never have one, he does like looking at them. And as you can imagine, since Ravage has been a popular character, there have been numerous toys made of him. I don't have very many of them, but of course, even if I did, that would take a video on its own. I do, however, have the Siege version of Ravage. He was sold in a 2-pack with Rumble. I remember having a heck of a job getting this guy, because Hasbro was already making things difficult to find. This gives him a little bit more of a beefed out body, so everything's not too close, and it all folds up compact to fit in with that release of Soundwave. And even it has his bombs molded here on the back of his legs, so that's a nice throwback to a classic toy. Even though the old one could easily step on him and not think twice of it. And now here is Rumble. Now, to talk about Rumble, we do have to bring up the controversy between fans. So people want to know, is he red or is he blue? Because in the animated cartoon, Rumble was blue. But for whatever reason, his toy was red, and the blue one was Frenzy. I suspect is that they were switched either in the animation department or at Hasbro. Somehow, one way or the other, one of them got switched, and that's just how it was. No attempt was made to correct it, as there really wasn't much of a need for it. The cassette guys kind of sold themselves by being out there. Buzzsaw got neglected on it due to the fact that he came with Soundwave. He didn't need to be advertised. And at any rate, most of us kids probably didn't pay that much attention to it when we got them. So all in all, it is a rather senseless debate in my eyes, but there are fans that will argue it until they're blue in the face. I guess some people gotta have something to complain about. I do enough of it on other things here on this channel, so we aren't going to contribute to that. But the only thing I want to mention is that if you go looking online for a Generation 1 Rumble, he is red. If you ask for a blue Rumble from G1, you're going to get Frenzy. Of course, when you get it in your home and you put it up for display, you want to call this Frenzy and the blue one Rumble? Hey, that's your call. It's your home. Who am I to judge what you do in your own home? Alright, at any rate, Now this one is a 1984 Rumble, since as you can see, he has no rub sign. I knew there was a 1984 one of somebody around here somewhere. Can't remember, did that apply? That even applied here to Ravage, because he's got a sticker instead of a rub sign. So, hey, we actually have a 1984 set that came out in 1984. Alright. Here is Rumble's accessories. They are his laser guns. They are exactly the same as the ones that came with Frenzy. They are exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about if one should belong to the other. The only issue with that would be the gold ones that came with Frenzy, because those came when Rumble was discontinued. And of course, they also have the same flaws in them, that they're made of chrome. They got chrome plating, so it will wear. And you do have to watch these fins, because they can break relatively easily if you're not careful. Beyond that, we'll take a look at Rumble's articulation, and it will be the exact same as what would be with Frenzy. You can raise his arm up to the side about so far. His arms do rotate at the shoulder all the way. He has a double jointed elbow, so you can get his arms into some wacky positions. You can spread his legs apart into a full splits. It's more for transforming him, but he can do it. And he does have a good thigh cut. Rumble also apparently can bend his legs at the knee. So, pretty neat. Now, to transform Rumble, just like with Frenzy, we rotate the arms up, fold the forearms down, push his head in, and then shift them at the shoulders so that his hands will go and hold his head in. Come down here and push his feet inside. Turn his legs so his feet face each other. And then fold everything up like so. And then there you have it. Rumble is in his micro cassette form. As you can imagine, these guys having predominantly labels as their backsides. Those labels are hard to keep in good shape after all these years. But at any rate, we'll get Rumble back to normal. Or as close to normal as he gets. And again, like with a lot of the other G1 guys, they have been around for a long time, so naturally there are other versions. I can't list all of them because it would take forever, but I will show a few out of my collection. Here is the Siege Rumble, which was done up to look like this version of Rumble. Probably stirred the same pot with people when it was released. And of course, he was sold with Ravage, just like they were back in the 80s. So a nice throwback. But probably one of the better Rumbles that I have is the Studio 86 Rumble, which gives us a cartoon accurate Rumble, complete with his pile drivers. So now we can get some quaking going on. Alright, before we get to our conclusion, we'll take a look here at their card. Thank you again, Larry, for holding this. This one's not very good, since a lot of the art has been torn off, and the cardboard is rather thin, but we'll live with it. This is actually an 84 card, because if it was an 85, it would have instructions here for the rub sign. It gives the instructions here for Rumble and then Ravage at the bottom. Here at the top is the barcode and a robot point for the mail-aways. Ravage and Rumble were worth 1 point. So we'll come down here, we'll take a look at their tech spec cards. They are both done up in purple to show that they are Decepticons. It even says Decepticon above them. And the pictures that are used here would match the ones on the front of the package. Although for Ravage, it's a mirror version. We'll start with Ravage. It lists his function as a saboteur. And his motto is, "Today's Autobots are tomorrow's scrap metal." Ravage operates best alone, a creature of the night. Craftiest of all Decepticons, adept at devising deadly new strategies. Remains aloof from others, but his deeds command their respect. Can virtually escape detection. Emits an electromagnetic emission shield, has a soundless walk, disappears in subdued light or shadow. Carries 2 powerful heat-seeking missiles. Okay, they are missiles. Light sensitive, can be blinded. Alright, we go over here to his tech spec card, and we'll read over it, because I can see the bar without the decoder. It gives his strength as 5, his intelligence is 8, his speed is 5, his endurance is 6, his rank is 7, his courage is 4, his firepower is 7, and his skill is 10. Now, of course, with him having somewhat below average courage, it would make it seem like that he's somewhat of a coward. I guess his soundless walk and the electromagnetic shield helps give him some confidence that he won't be caught. But of course, being afraid of death probably means that makes him better at his job. And then down here to Rumble, his function is demolitions. His motto is, destroy what's below and what's above will follow. Rumble is your basic street punk. Smart but always acting tough. Quick temper and mean disposition. Follows Megatron's orders eagerly. Transmits immense low-frequency ground waves to create powerful earthquakes. So, he does it a different way, but the pile drivers are apparently cooler. His small size limits his physical strength, but his ability to shatter the ground make him difficult to approach in a fight. Well, somebody lays down low and takes a shot at him. At any rate, we'll take a look at his stats on the grid. It gives his strength as 2. His intelligence is 5. His speed is 2. His endurance is 8. His rank is 5. His courage is 7. His firepower is 8. And his skill is 5. So Rumble has a fair amount of courage to back up his big mouth. But I'm sure it probably also doesn't hold up much in a good fight. So what do I think of these guys, especially 40 years later? Ravage and Rumble are a mixed bag. Ravage is an excellent character. Always has been and has always been a fan favorite. Rumble, on the other hand, is basically your typical punk. But that isn't to say that I don't like him. The toys themselves, they're pretty good for what they were back in the day. They certainly don't hold up as well now, but there have been some modern versions of them available. It is nice to look back at them again, due to the fact that they were always a fan favorite. If you can overlook the fact that Rumble is red and not blue. They are definitely a pair that you'd want to track down. Hopefully you can find a set of them relatively inexpensive. And that concludes my review of Ravage and Rumble from Generation 1. I hope you all enjoyed it. And please do remember that if you love the content we feature on this channel, I wouldn't mind getting a like, a share, and a comment from all of you. And subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to ring the bell so you'll be notified when I post new G1 content. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.